Good evening, everyone. This is the March 19th meeting of the Revere City Council. Would everyone please rise to salute the flag?
Roll call of the members. Councilor Guanasso.
Here.
Here. Councilor Keefe.
Here?
Here. Councilor McKenna.
Here.
Here. Councilor Morabito.
Here.
Here. Councilor Novoselsky. Here. Councilor Patch.
Here.
Here. Councilor Powers.
Here.
Here. Councilor Rizzo.
Here.
Here. Councilor Rotundo is absent. Councilor Zambudo.
Here.
Here. And Council President Janino. Here. Quorum is present. Approval of the journal of the regular meeting of March 5th, 2018.
This time, I'm going to take a motion to suspend rules. All in favor? All opposed? So ordered. We're going to take up calendar item 11.
Calendar item number 11 is a communication from the Election Commissioner requesting approval of exemption for 8 employees of the City of Revere to enable them to work the polls on Election Day.
Thank you very much. We're now down to 7 staff members that work. There's only one person that works full-time. The other 6 are part-time, and they're basically in the senior center. One's on the Conservation Commission, and we're just asking for an approval of exemption to allow them to work at the polls on Election Day.
Any councilors have any questions? Councilor Keefe?
Thank you, Madam President. Through you to Ms. Colella. These employees or these exemptions have been given out before to these same people,
We've been doing this for quite some time.
and there's been no issues, correct?
None.
I'd be totally in favor then.
Thank you.
Councilor Novoselsky?
Thank you, Madam President. Diane, am I to say that you're doing this because you don't have enough people to work the polls?
Yes.
When was the last time you advertised?
We advertise every election. It's on the website, it's on cable, it's in the Journal, and it's in the Advocate.
Okay.
It's actually, notices posted online as we speak. It's just left online.
Have you reached out to the
Democratic-
the PTOs and
Yes.
down the schools?
Yes.
Work part-time at
Yes.
polls? I'm
Democratic
surprised
and
because, people are always asking me how to vote, how they
send them our
can
way.
work in the poll.
Send them my way. We also get in touch with the Democratic and Republican city committees, and we ask them for lists of workers.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
although they do come, they're very good to us, it's usually not enough.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other councilors? Roll call.
Shall the City Council approve an exemption for certain individuals who work for the City of Revere in another capacity in order to work the polls on Election Day? Councilor Guanasso.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morabito.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo is absent. Councilor Zambudo.
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino.
Yes.
Yes, the exemption has been approved.
Thank you very much.
Calendar item 13.
Calendar item number 13 is a communication from the Director of Finance as it relates to the loan order in the amount of $50,000 for a feasibility study of the reconstruction of the Point of Pines Fire Station.
Yes. Yes, this is the first step in looking at the Point of Pines Fire Station. As you're aware, there's quite a bit of development going on down in that area, and especially during the access to that area has been minimalized, so that what happens is that if there's a call, the call time for a piece of rescue equipment or emergency equipment rather has gone down, has actually increased. So with that in mind, looking at especially the warmer months where there is such, I want to say horrendous traffic, which there is, in that area, it's now being looked at that maybe we could rejuvenate the Point of Pines station. The Point of Pines station was closed for good, pretty much, as far as a service station in the 1990s. However, in during certain periods of time, they have opened it during the warmer months and stationed a engine company down there. With that, what happened is that we're looking at now the condition of the station, and with the mayor and the fire chief are looking at the possibility of somehow rejuvenating the station, putting it in a good working order, and making it available to the emergency or the public safety portion of the city government. And naturally, with the utmost concern of the safety of our residents. So we're looking for a $50,000 feasibility study. It may be for a total reconstruction or maybe a reconstruction of the Point of Pines Fire Station. However, that's what will come out of this plan, whether or not we have a total reconstruction or just a reconstruction of the building itself, a redevelopment, excuse me, rehab of the building itself. So we're looking for this $50,000 to be authorized in order to do this. Okay.
Councilor Powers?
Thank you, Madam President. George, as you well know, and I'm sure other members of this council do, that station right now is closed. Any activities such as voting or anything like that are going to be held at the Point of Pines Yacht Club.
Yes.
We all know that there's a tremendous amount of development being done as a matter of right on the boulevard. And we're not even talking about the Lasden property, or we're not talking about considering rather, the Lasden property or the G&J property, which isn't always going to be a tow yard. So I think we've got a brand-new station up in Ward 6. We've got a brand-new station down on the Parkway, Ladder 1, Engine 1. I think that it's so important that that end of the beach, that end of the city, have the proper public safety equipment down there. Now, we all know that the Point of Pines Fire Station, you cannot house a ladder truck in there. All of the construction that's going on the boulevard right now is wood construction, 5, 6 stories. I think it's imperative that whatever we put there is designed to accommodate a ladder truck to serve the residents down there. There's 5,000 people living down in that area down there when you take into the Pines, Oak Island, and the boulevard. Many of them are elderly, retirees, and those are the people that probably require whether it's a medical aid or an emergency of some type, more than anyone else in the city. So I think it's important. So I'm going to ask my colleagues to, this will be going to Ways and Means, I would imagine, but I'm going to ask my colleagues to support this on behalf of the residents of Ward 5, Point of Pines, Oak Island, and Lower Revere Street. And I think it's a step in the right direction. There have been pieces of the parapet falling, the concrete off of the edges of that building down there now, and we're very fortunate that no one's been seriously injured. So again, those are my comments, and I hope this will go to committee and we'll be able to resolve this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. And just for everyone's knowledge, this, along with the next 3 communications from Mr. Anzoni, will all be going to Ways and Means, and they'll be ordered to a public hearing on April 2nd. Steve? Counselor Morbido?
Just a quick question. Will this feasibility study, will it be based on the current footprint, or will it be based on the lot?
I believe it will be based on the lot, not on the footprint, because we'll also be studying what is needed down there and what is necessary, and what type of housing we need for the equipment that will be needed for that area. So it's going to be all-encompassing. So to do it just for the amount of the footprint may be a problem, but I'm sure that's all going to be taken into consideration. So when they do the feasibility study.
And I had the same thoughts as my colleague, Councilor Powers,
Right.
about making sure the site in the feasibility study to include that the new structure would be able to hold a ladder truck, especially with all the high rises. And also, we constantly complain about traffic in that area and the response time to get from one side of Revere to the other, maybe to have an ambulatory vehicle as well in the feasibility study up there as well.
Well, again, the feasibility study is going to be all-encompassing, and it will take all this into consideration, and we'll see what happens when it does come out. But if there is first we have to look at is the lowering of the response time to the area, as you were aware of, which I'm sure you want to see happen. But it's all-encompassing, and all that will be taken into consideration.
I'll
For the hearing, okay.
give my committee, the rest of my comments for subcommittee.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Powers, do you have a point of information?
Just as a point of information, that lot down there goes way back, and it certainly is large enough to add an additional footage on there to accommodate a ladder truck, and I believe the chief also feels that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rizzo.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Through you, Madam President, George, of course, there's nothing more important in my mind than public safety and making sure that our residents are protected, both with respect to fire and police. $50,000 feasibility study on the building, on its face, I don't have a problem with. I'm still disappointed, Madam President, that we don't have, here it is a month later, after the fire on Central Ave, this council passed a motion over a month ago to have the chief and the mayor up here to talk about equipment that's been out of service, yet they are reluctant to come up here and talk about it with the city council so we have a full understanding of why we have equipment that is out of service in the existing stations. My concern is we're going to take $50,000 and do a feasibility study to redo a building, but if we can't put people in the building, we need to know that. Because why spend $50,000, $1 million, $2 million, whatever the number is going to wind up being to make the building look nice, but if we can't staff it, then I don't want to throw good money after bad. If we have a plan to staff that station, which I would like to hear from the chief and the mayor as to how they're going to do that, then I think it would make a lot more sense to me to take $50,000 of taxpayer money and do a feasibility study, and then go forward with that, take it a step further, and of course, do the repairs that are needed. I'm more concerned about personnel down there, and of course, you don't want to put personnel in a building that can't hold them. And
Right.
so, let me just state that for the record, that I absolutely would not want to put firefighters in a building that could not handle personnel in that building. But I do want to be sure that if we go forward with this, whether it's a $50,000 feasibility study or subsequent to that, money that is going to be needed to make the necessary repairs to put that building in operation, that we're going to actually have people in there. And so I would want to know that, and I hope, Madam President, that when we have our Ways and Means Committee meeting, that they will have the courtesy of coming up before the Ways and Means Committee to discuss their plan on how this whole project will go forward. So,
Right.
as I say, there is nobody on the city council, I can imagine, that would not be in favor of wanting to put that station back in service. But I want to be sure that if we do fix that building up, it's not just, so that we feel good about having a good-looking building down there, but they're going to actually have personnel down there that can respond to the needs of the residents of the Point of Pines and along the boulevard.
Well, I do know this, Counselor, is that there is work going on to, this is a second part of a step. The first part of the step is to find the funding in order to man that station, and this is the second part. They are identifying funds as we speak. Funds are being identified at this time to see exactly, especially with the growth that's happening in the city, to make it available in the budget to fund the manning of the station. So that'll be something that will be addressed at the meeting we have for the hearing.
Thank you very much, Judge. Thank you, Madam
Thank
President.
you.
Thank you. And I just want to remind my colleagues that this, along with the next two communications, will be going to Councilor Rizzo's Ways and Means Subcommittee. Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you, Madam President. I echo the sentiments of my colleague to my right. I mean, obviously, we all were concerned when we found out that some apparatus were out of service, and from the feedback I got, it was manpower, and so I'm certainly in favor of opening a station in the Point of Pines, as we know we desperately need it, but as my colleague to my right said, we need to make sure they're going to be staffed. So it sounds like there's a plan, and we're going to hear it soon, so that's
Yes,
great.
Counsel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors? This will be going to Ways and Means, and it will be ordered to a public hearing on April 2nd. Calendar item number 14.
Communication from the Director of Finance relative to a loan order for a new Department of Public Works facility in the amounts of either $22.5 million or $25.3 million.
Okay, we normally don't send up to more than one loan order for a particular project. However, on this project, what we did when we had the feasibility study done is we said maybe there are different options that we can use in order to lighten the load on the bonded debt situation. So looking at it, we had 3 stages. One would be the total knockdown and rebuilding of the station, and that's $22 million. The next would be a reconstruction, so we would use part of the present building and knock the rest down and then reconstruct, and that was a $21 million project. And then there was the last, which is a phased-in project, and the project would start in year 1, then go to year 6, and another bit of it will be done in year 10, another portion will be done. So it'll be finished in 11 years. But the reason that was done is we wanted to see how it looked on debt schedules. With that, it's decided that we send up both of these. You can take a look at. I've included in your packet not only the feasibility study, but also a little short cheat sheet of the advantages and the disadvantages of each. And I'd be glad to speak at the Ways and Means Committee meeting in order to explain that fully.
Thank you. Any counselors? This will also, Counselor Keith? Oh, yeah.
Well, I understand it's going to go to Ways and Means Subcommittee, but just in reference, just reading through some of the notes and being at the meeting prior when we had the scope of the projects, my opinion would be to not do any phased project, to just do it all at once, rather than
Okay.
wait and then have less capacity for 5, 7, 8, 10 years.
Right.
And just get full capacity as soon as the building is ready to operate.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're really wasting money if you don't have full capacity.
Okay.
But that's my opinion.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, being the chairman of Public Works Committee, I'm so glad to see this coming in front of us. I've been looking for this to happen for 8 years now. You know, I've put motions in the past just to get things rolling, and this is the first step, and I want to thank the mayor and George and Superintendent Goodwin for coming to this point. The workers down at the city yard deserve a decent facility to work in. Their quality of life and their quality of work life is devastating, may you say. I'm surprised we haven't condemned the place yet, that OSHA hasn't. But it's very important that we do this, and I agree with Councilor Keefe, the quicker the better. So thank you very much.
Counselor Rizzo?
Thank you very much, Madam President. And George, I'll save most of my questions and comments for committee. Just as I'm looking through here, and, you know, we've worked together now for a long time, I see a communication here to go out, you know, of course, the feasibility study for the fire station, $22 to $25 million for a public works facility, which seems astronomically high to me for a department that has about 25 or 30 guys in it, and most of them presumably are out of the building most of the time. And then there's another communication in here talking about a new high school. I'm trying to figure out, and by the way, we just gave $900,000 in tax breaks through a referendum that the mayor proposed back in November to seniors. So are you in a position right now to say the city can well afford all these projects that we're talking about now?
Well, from what we have as far as these bond issues, I can say that looking at the debt statements and when they'd be coming on the debt rolls and be serialized for debt, the city has the capability of affordability. So with all of this, the 25 million or the 22 million, that won't come on to the debt service probably for another, afterwards, if it is authorized, probably take another at least 2 years before, almost 3 years before it hits the debt service. The 50,000 for the Point of Pine station, that won't come on board until the decision is made on the feasibility study, and then another loan order comes up for the cost of the building, cost of the construction. The $11 million, although it's a high number, and this is something I said in my communication to you, to the city council, it's a high number. It's the total amount what the of the bond authorization. And that's the amount that it will cost to build the DCR facility. However, there are other funds that are and other things that are in play that will reimburse the city so that we won't have to go to the $11 million figure. The outside figure is probably somewhere in the area of 5 or 6 million. We have money that's in an escrow account that was put in at the sale at the different stages for the sale of various pieces of land. There's also another option where another piece of land may be sold. There may be some commitment from the DCR. I'm not saying there will be, but I'm saying there may be a commitment from the DCR that would go 50-50 with the city. So on those, that one looks like quite a bit of money, the $11 million, as explained in my letter, and my communication rather, that there are other funds that would be taken into account for that $11 million. Again, as I said, the $22 million for the public works facility, that's another 3 years down the road. So what we did, and let me explain this, and I'll explain it more during the subcommittee meeting, is that we actually projected the development that's going on in the city. We put a number next to that for each one of these developments. We put it on fiscal year and by fiscal year, and we look at exactly how much more income will be, how much more tax revenue we'll have in those years. So with that in mind, looking at that with what the bonded debt's going to be, if the projections that we're making feel that the city budget can absorb this. And then also we have available to us some reserves that are available to the city. You have a stabilization fund, you have free cash, and some other reserves that we have that will be maybe available to us in order to handle this. So taking that all and putting it all into the pie, that looking at it, it's probably about debt service increase in, this is fiscal year 18, probably 2021. So it's a debt service increase in 2021, and that's when it's going to be serialized.
And, okay, so thank you for that explanation, George. I think prior to the Ways and Means Committee meeting,
Yeah.
if you could get me a bonded debt schedule, long-term bonded debt schedule for me to look at and
Okay.
share with the council, that would be great. Just so we know with our existing debt and what the projected debt is going to be, along with those projected growth numbers that you referred to, just so we know that if we go forward with a vote to approve this,
Right.
that we know that we're not putting the city at any type of financial risk.
And debt schedule, okay. So you want an actual debt schedule?
Yeah.
That we have, the present debt schedule, then you want me to add these to that debt schedule? And
Exactly.
then you want the growth numbers and how we look in the different fiscal years, correct?
Correct.
The increase in the tax revenue. That's fine. I can do that.
Thank you very much, George. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Powers?
Thank you, Madam President. I also share Councilor Rizzo's concerns with regard to the DPW facility and the Point of Pines Fire Station. But I look at the other side of the coin, and I look at these gentlemen from HYM sitting out here tonight. I look at the Suffolk Downs Development Project that's going to be going on soon. I look at the hotel down on the boulevard, where they've already started the demolition down there. And while I share those concerns, I also think that, let's say that 3 years from now, we decided, or the mayor decided, or whoever, that here's the money. We can fund 4 groups down at the Point of Pines Fire Station. We've got that $900,000 that's necessary to do that. But we don't have any place to put them. And I think this city is moving ahead in a positive direction. And I think this is similar with the DPW. We're going to need more men down there with the size of the city. There's no question about that. However, I think it's important that we have those facilities in place, and I think we owe it to the people down at the DPW that work there every day under horrendous conditions. And I think we owe it to the people that live on the eastern and northern side of the city of Revere with regard to public safety. So that's my position, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Zambudo.
Thank you, Madam President. Obviously, I think we all share, and certainly I have utmost respect for our Director of Finance, and I'm sure he's going to provide us with detailed information to make us all feel better. But I think we certainly need all that information. One concern I have here, and it was briefly talked about, is $11 million for the DCR facility. Now, I know I'm a dinosaur, and I've
Counselor
been
Zambudo?
here.
Because we're not on that item yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I know it came up.
We're focusing right now on calendar item number 14, that's calendar item number 15, so that will be next on the agenda.
Didn't
But
the
I've been very
director-
liberal with
Did the
allowing
Director
people
of
to speak on
Finance
them.
talk about the $11 million figure, didn't you?
We did talk about the $11 million figure, but it was grouped into all of the.
Okay,
money.
so I'll wait. No problem.
It's okay.
I want to discuss that.
Any other counselors on this item? And again, this will be going to the Ways and Means Subcommittee as well as public hearings. Counselor Granasso.
Thank you, Madam President. I hate to indulge upon the time of the council, but I know it's the rules of order as it goes before the Ways and Means, but since we've talked about it for 12 minutes, I thought I ought to say something for 2 minutes. During the course of my recent campaign for re-election, I made it known to my constituents that one of the concerns that I had within our city was the lack of a proper facility for the DPW. I think this is a golden opportunity to finally get a structure for people that work so hard every day. When we make our requests via 311, these most likely are the individuals that bear the burden of our responses, and they have to do and go forward. And I think it'll add to the morale of the people who work there. I know one of the councils stated that we might not need they do work out in the field, but we have to field at least some of the equipment has to be covered and protected. And it's right, and I think most of our DPW workers do work the field, and they go out and they provide a tremendous service. So I think this is the first time in several years that we've had the opportunity to at least help these individuals somewhat, give them a better place to work. We've done it for our teachers, we've done it for the police and fire department, and now we're doing it for the DPW, and I think they so deservingly need our support, and I think we have to do whatever we have to do to help them gain this facility and as soon as possible. Thank you, Madam President, for your indulgence in my time.
Well said, Counselor. This will be going to Ways and Means as well as order to a public hearing on April 2nd.
Council President, which option is being sent to a public hearing?
That is a great question. Should we hear them both in Ways and Means, and then can we make a decision at that point?
The item does not need to be sent to a public hearing this evening. The council can decide in committee which option they would like.
So let's send it to committee, determine an option, and then forward it to a public hearing from that point. So if we can't meet the deadline of the April 2nd, we'll move it to the next, which would be the 23rd. Calendar item number 15.
Communication from the Director of Finance as it relates to a loan order for the construction of a Department of Conservation and Recreation Maintenance facility in the amount of $11 million.
Yes. So, bringing this up, this is a loan order based on an agreement that was made in about 2000, the year 2000, under former Mayor Thomas Ambrosino. The reason for this was it's all part of a major plan, master plan, to develop the Revere Beach area. With that, the city of Revere was allowed to receive some, at the sale of properties, then receive some funds for the sales of these properties in order to develop down there in that area. I sent you a communication which outlines this, which outlines the reason for this and the reason behind this. Further, there was a state legislation that was enacted. It was proposed by the then mayor and then voted on by the city council and then forwarded to the state legislature, which was passed in 2011, that allowed for the city to take this action. So with that, again, as I had mentioned before, the loan order is for $11 million. That's the total amount. The reason we did the total $11 million is so that, one, the city wouldn't have to go back to the city council for approval, but the other part is that maybe the way we pay the bills to the vendor, there may be some savings. So, and it'll be a much quicker payment to the vendor rather than have to wait a longer period of time and process it through the DCR. So with that, again, I ask that this be sent to committee and then allow us to further detail what the proposal is.
Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you, Madam President. At the risk of repeating myself that I'm a dinosaur and I've been here a long time, I said that because I was on the city council when Governor Romney came to Revere Beach to announce the kickoff of transit-oriented development.
That's correct.
Now, some people don't know that Revere was the first place that was announced. Unfortunately, it took us forever to acquire the land needed to get this project developed, and places like Station Landing and many other places went before us. But the only reason I'm bringing up this little bit of history here is because I remember clearly that the number placed on the DCR rebuilded facility was $4 million. Now, I know, the one thing I have is a pretty crystal clear memory, and that was the number that was supposed to come from the development to relocate their facility. Now, am I imagining this, or is my...
Yeah, that could have been the number, Counselor, but that's not the number, and no number ever reached the agreement, and no number ever reached the...
That was certainly the number that was talked about.
I'm not saying it's not.
And that was said that would take to relocate this DCR facility. So, fast forward, I don't know, 15 years?
15 years.
Fast forward 15 years, and we're talking 11 million now.
Right.
So, and I, for some reason, in my head, we were never responsible for even the 4 million. It was coming from the developer. The developer had to purchase the land from DCR to create the facility. That's, now I know there's some people that were around back then and might have the same memory I do, but I'm going to have to research and see that I'm not starting to lose my memory, and guess what? I don't think I am.
Well,
So-
I'm not questioning that.
Yeah.
What I am saying to you is that, and quite clearly, is the fact I sent you up a copy of the act that was passed in 2011, the acts of, I believe, 2011, and Chapter 183. I don't have the quote here.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you did, and I'm
So
so
in
sure I
that,
saw it.
I
at some point.
underlined and highlighted the portion that would made the city of Revere responsible, that would make the city of Revere responsible
Okay.
for the TCR facility.
I'm going to have to review that. And that's
Okay.
2011, so evidently, that was a high, fast one that went over my head, because back
Well-
when the whole thing with the master plan was put together,
Right.
it was a whole different story, and somehow I didn't see this this, I must not have been paying attention to that, but, so you're telling us we're responsible for $11 million as
I'm
a
not telling you
city?
that, Council.
The legislation
The
is telling you.
legislation is telling you,
Yeah.
and I think the original agreement is telling you that was signed, and which has been amended. There is
So the
agreement
bottom
telling
line
you
is,
that
I
we're
guess,
responsible
George,
for it.
we're responsible
We're
for
responsible
$11
for it,
million.
right. And it was done way back when,
Yeah.
and
No,
again, it was
I-
passed through the city council,
I understand that,
and then
but it's
enacted the
not
state
good news.
legislation.
It's
Right.
not good news. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Guanasso.
Thank you, Madam President. I certainly am aware of the situation when it occurred, and so aware of it now, and I just think there's a great deal of unfairness that goes along with this. DCR is now recognizing that we're part and parcel to Revere Beach. Because every single time there's an opportunity for an event or anything like that, we become second-class citizens, and the DCR runs the show. We sit there like, use an Italian word, mamalukes. And the DCR dictates where we sit, how high we sit.
Right.
And now they're asking us, oh, you remember that act we did back there when Tommy and Ambrosino and Governor Romney were available? $11 million worth? Now we know who you are. Well, now they're going to know who we are, because I think they're going to have to do some responsible sharing of Revere Beach. Finally, we're going to get some sort of say, I think, because it always was my undertaking, the private sector, the guy that paid the bills and passed out the rewards of cash, made the determination of what takes place. And we don't get that kind of respect from DCR. They clean the beach because it's their obligation. They clean the beach because it's an obligation because it's a state beach. And we've been told a billion times that it's the first beach and it's a public beach, and we're not to be able to charge people to park there like they do in Hampton Beach, was, by the way, seems to be a public beach. And while they do in the Hamptons, appears to be a public beach, but they can charge there. But we have to be a freebie. We have to allow anyone to park anywhere, and our residents come down, lo and behold, there's no place to park. And don't even think about giving residents preference for parking, because that's absurd. That's a DCR property. Again, now you're saying to us, here's $11 million. Let's show up, neighbors. Let's give us the cash. I really have strong objections to a lot of what they've done. You know, and they make the term, and I'm not, you're the carrier, I'm not George, please.
All right,
You and
I
have been
understand
friends
that,
for 100
Counsel,
years.
but I
And
just
you
wanna
heard me
say-
off the record, but I just feel very strongly
I
that,
understand this. And I understand your
when do they recognize that we are part of Revere Beach? We are Revere, Massachusetts. We share a responsibility, Revere Beach. But we also want a play in Revere Beach. We want to say what goes on there. They allow what trucks operate on the beach,
Right.
come, all the big festivities, goes through DCR, and here's Revere. Our cops are out there directing traffic. Where's DCR? I mean, where's their money? You know, and the MBTA is sharing, they're getting all these ridership coming to it, and they're getting the fares for that, and they won't put two transit police officers at the intersection of Revere Street and North Shore Road for one night, for a whole weekend. I mean, so we're not asking to be, you know, too much. We're just asking like Nahant does, like Salem, New Hampshire does, and wherever. You know, these things are doable, but they don't recognize we have a say in this matter. And I think that we have a say in $11 million, because that's a lot to ask our taxpayers. It's half of the construction of the new DPW building.
Right.
So that's expensive.
That is expensive, but as I just want to reiterate the fact that there is, the maximum will be, the maximum need of that bond issue will probably be the $6 million. But however, because of the way the agreements are set up and the way the bills will be paid, they have to first go to DCR for approval, then come back, and the vendor's going to have to wait some time. We may be able to realize the savings if, and this is why, with the bond council's agreement, we felt that it would be better that we pass the whole $11 million, and the city can pay the bills directly, and we'll have that savings, because they're going to put in their RFP, they'll put in their RFP an amount that they're going to take into account, they're going to have to wait for their funds. So that's going to be something that's going to be a hindrance. So rather than do that, we may be able to pay the bills directly to the vendor. Again, we have some $4 or $5 million that are already is being held in an escrow account
Why don't we get the
Land-
Audubon Society to help us pay for this? Because
Oh,
a portion of the beach is taken up with plovers, so.
By plovers,
we-
right.
So they have a share in it too. So all this expense that they were experiencing.
Right.
Let them pay. They come from Belmont, Wellesley, and they're dictating to where our bathers can be, locate on the beach, and they come with their rulers, and they look at you like they're, kamikaze. This is insane. And they're dictating to, again, to Revere people.
But they're actually, yeah, but the point to Revere is they've made some partnerships with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and that's been done during, that year 2000, and even further on. And that's been going on through different administrations, and so they've bonded with the state. Because of this agreement that was made, I want to say there were quite a bit of taxes that the city has realized on the properties that have been developed. So we're getting that benefit. I think we do have a say what goes on down there, and I think we definitely have a say what goes on down there as far as the construction is concerned, and on the infrastructure and the buildings, but we also have more, we hold in our hands the destiny of where Revere Beach is going. And that's what this is looking to do, from what I understand, because I've read it and read the documents that have been sent to me and looked them over. Discussed them with both the council that has been involved in this for a number of years, and the
Excuse me,
planning that's
Judge.
been involved. Yes.
Madam President, point of order.
State your point, Counsel.
Madam President, with due respect to all the councilors in the chamber, here we are asking for a public hearing and moving it to Ways and Means, and we're going through all these orations from all of us that's just going to be repeated at the public hearing and again at the Ways and Means Committee meeting, and then
Counselor,
again when
that's
we
not a
take it
point of
out.
information. I've sat here
So
for
I'm
8 weeks now.
just asking that we move this
Counselor,
along.
Madam President,
Counselor, I have the floor.
I had the floor. You
And
interrupted.
I asked for a
what-
point of information. It was
Excuse
given
me.
to me, Counselor.
Tell him who had the floor.
He had the floor, you had a point.
He had the
right,
point.
but
He
I'm
didn't even
giving
ask
a
for a
point,
point.
and
He
I'm
just
giving a
brought, he
point.
just wanted in.
That
He
we
didn't
move-
even ask
that
for
we
a point of
move on.
information.
Thank
That
you,
we move
Counsel.
on.
Counsel Guanasso, you have the floor.
I sat here for 8 weeks trying, go by the rules of order. And it was just disrupted, and I talked to my councilors to the left. I said, all of these that are going to subcommittee should go to subcommittee. And I sat here purposely, not saying anything. Tonight, I came into the council chamber saying it's going to end because, you know what? No one's abiding by the rules. If it's going to a subcommittee, let it be. And I sat here since January 1st, we first convened for the new session, and I tried to be quiet and not speak on, and I did. But I was the only one doing it. And people thought I turned into a mute.
Point
Well,
of
I get
information,
new-
I beg to differ on that, Counselor. You may, if you want to call other people, I'll call them out. Don't put
All
me
right,
in that.
guys.
I just
So-
think very strongly that we should go by our rules of order. If it's going to a subcommittee, let it go.
I agree.
But don't allow
and-
one or two to speak, and then when the third or fourth side to speak, okay, it
Thank you.
gets to be, it's out of line.
No, Counselor, I agree wholeheartedly, and if it gets to the point where I have to take out a timer, and we'll time everyone's
Don't have
comments
to
to 2
time
minutes,
anybody,
and
just
then we
go by
can
the
into
rules of
committee,
order.
I will
Go
get
to
there, but
subcommittee.
I think it's a little, it's
Thank you,
it's
Madam
kind of
President.
ridiculous that we can't get to a point where we can all take turns, gentlemen and ladies. At this time, we'll have Counselor Patch, followed by Counselor McKenna.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I agree with my good friend, Councilor Grasso. I was sitting here while everybody was speaking, and I'm thinking, I better make a point here. And I got a point. I'd like to know, $11 million is a lot of money. And I don't understand why we have to give that to the state. I know it was done before I was on the council. I didn't get on until 2008. But what did we, you don't even have to answer tonight. You can answer in the Ways and Means. I'd like some information on what we actually got for making this agreement, and if we got anything, and why in the hell did they agree to it? I'd like to know why.
Okay, I'm only going to
And
answer.
you don't
my-
have
my
to
short-
answer now,
my short
but we can
version.
wait.
It's a short
Okay.
version because we're going to Ways and Means. We did get something out of it, but we'll explain that in Ways and Means, okay?
Any other counselors? Counselor McKenna.
I'm sorry to add my 2 cents in, Madam Chairman, but it's not only Revere Beach that, and I hope everybody knows that. I mean, half of the city is run by DCR. The seawall's breaking off going on Winthrop Parkway. The sidewalks are a mess. Rocky Beach is not a Rocky Beach anymore. You can't even go down the stairs. It doesn't have a railing. You know, I mean, there are so many issues with DCR. It's not just Revere Beach. It's everywhere. Sidewalks are a mess where they own. So I really think we, as a whole council, we should take a look at not only Revere Beach, but the whole city and see what problems. It's like, you know, I hate to say this, but National Grid comes up here and we say no to them. So I think, and DCR is not doing their job, so I really do think that we need to make them accountable, come up here and say, I put a motion in a year ago for a sidewalk on Winthrop Parkway, and I don't know where Elliott Circle is. There's no sidewalk there anymore. So let's call them out, just like we call everybody else out, make them accountable, because they aren't doing their job. They're not doing their job. And they want $11 million when they won't do their job. I say no. I say no. Let them come up here and let them face us, and let us as a council hold them accountable. Thank you.
Well said. What a way to end that one. On the motion, this will be going to Ways and Means and held in a public hearing on April 2nd.
And I'm here for the next item also.
Yep.
Yep.
We'll take up item number 16.
Calendar item number 16 is a communication from the Chief of Police requesting a transfer in the amount of $45,000 from the Revere Police Detail account to the Police New Equipment account.
The reason this is an ask, and I'm standing in for Chief Guido, is because there is need for a new equipment, a new cruiser. And this is because some of the, one or two of the cruisers have been in accidents, not to the fault of our police officers. So with that, we'd like to have this money passed so we can purchase a new cruiser and have the streets, make certain that the streets of Revere are fully patrolled. So.
Any councilors have any questions? Councilor Pash wishes to move this to a vote. Do I have a second? We'll call a roll call, McKenna.
You can vote on it. Vote on the transfer.
It's a transfer, though. It's not a new allocation.
Right, not an appropriation.
Roll call?
Shall the City Council approve a transfer in the amount of $45,000 from the Revere Police Detail account to the Police New Equipment account? Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo? Yes. Councilor Rotundo is absent. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes, the transfer has been approved.
Thank you, councilors. Thank you.
This time we'll make a motion to return to the regular order. All in favor?
Calendar item number 3, it's a veto message regarding motion 18, I'm sorry, Council Order 18-071. This was a motion presented by Councilors Rizzo and Powers, that the mayor convene a meeting with the city planner, our state delegation, and representatives from the DCR and DOT to discuss a possible traffic study and potential solutions with regards to traffic along Revere Beach Boulevard, North Shore Road, and Revere Street. The veto message within minute track had read that this motion is a duplicate motion and the traffic study is already underway. Please see Council Order 18-021, submitted by Councilors Novoselsky, Powers, and Guanasso back on January 22nd.
Councilor Rizzo?
Thank you very much, Madam President. I'm not going to ask for an override on this if there is a study underway, but I would like to be kept apprised of the study. To my knowledge, it's never been presented to the City Council. I know Councilor Powers has alluded to it, and he's told me about it, but I personally haven't received anything. And so it would be nice to let the rest of the City Council understand what is going on along the beach. There is a lot of new development going on down there, and residents down there, one after another, are complaining about the traffic and the way traffic flows. And obviously, you know, we all know about the summer months down there and how traffic can get. So if there is a traffic study that is currently underway, it would be nice if we can get a status report. So again, I won't ask for an override, I'll just accept the veto to the message, which I think, in all honesty, Madam President, is a little bit odd in of itself. I mean, he just could have sent a communication back instead of vetoing the message, the motion. But regardless of that, if you could request that the mayor actually provide an update to the city council as to when we can expect the results of that study, and I think that would go a long way with me. Thank you.
Is that a verbal motion? On Counselor Rizzo's motion? All in favor? All opposed? So ordered. Counselor Powers.
Just as a point of information, there was a meeting probably 3 or 4 weeks ago in the mayor's office. Councilor Novoselsky was present, myself, a traffic consultant, and members from the DCR and DOT staffs. And as a result of that meeting, it was agreed that they would devise a couple of models of the traffic flow, what could be done there, and what would be the best way to do it. And I understand that's been done, and there's going to be a meeting in the Speaker's office probably next week sometime, if not this week, with regard to that situation. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor Powers. Any other counselors?
Madam President, if I could just, as a point of information, and I'd like to thank Councilor Powers for that update. There are other councilors concerned about it, and I was unaware of the meeting in the mayor's office. I certainly was never invited. And now I'm being told there's another meeting at the Speaker's office, which I don't know about. So, I think it's important that, certain councilors aren't selected for certain meetings when obviously we all have a vested interest in what's going on, and maybe, others may want to attend some of these meetings as well, where they do impact the city. I know certainly at-large councilors would want to be informed so that they might have the opportunity to participate in these meetings. So again, that goes back to the verbal motion that I just offered to get us the information on. It seems pretty basic. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor. Be placed on file, or? No? So the veto will be placed on file.
Calendar item number 4 is the zoning subcommittee report.
So Counselor Rotundo is unable to attend this evening. However, he asked that everything remain in committee except for, let me see, the HYM. Do we know the item number for that?
Yes, it's calendar item, council order number 18-054, and I do have a subcommittee report from Councilor Rotundo.
Perfect. Madam Clerk, if you'd like to present that, and then I'll ask any members of the committee if they wish to speak.
So for Councilor Rotundo's zoning subcommittee report, on March 12th, the zoning subcommittee met to discuss Suffolk Downs Overlay District. Committee members present were Councilors Morbido, Patch, Zambuto, Janino, and Chairman Rotundo. Councilor Rizzo was absent. The Suffolk Downs Overlay District was reported out of committee favorably with the following amendments. Amendment 1, Section 17.26.050, subsection A of dimensional regulations is amended by deleting residential and mixed-use residential structures and inserting in place thereof the word buildings. Amendment number 2, Section 17.26.050, subsection E of dimensional regulations is amended by deleting the sentence, "The foregoing shall not apply to the development of the initial permitted development as defined below pursuant to Section 17.26.050. Amendment number 3, the project advisory group shall be numbered as Section 17.26.060. Amendment number 4, Section 17.26.070, subsection B, special permit master plan PUD, is amended by deleting the initials PWG and inserting in place thereof PAG. And amendment number 5, Exhibit B, height map Revere, is added as an exhibit to the Suffolk Downs Overlay District.
This time I'll open it up to counselors. Starting this way, any counselors wishing to speak? Counselor Rizzo?
Thank you very much, Madam President. And I just want to basically state for the record that I have had the opportunity to meet with the developers several times and have expressed my opinion on this project. I think in the past here at our regularly scheduled meetings, and while I respect immensely the work that this development firm has done, I will not be able to vote in the affirmative tonight. You know, there are certain protections that I wanted to have in place that I don't think we currently have. I'm hopeful that as we go forward, we will have. But without those in place tonight, I will not be able to support this. But I don't want that to have any reflection on the development team themselves, because I do believe they are a very high-quality firm. And but given the past history that we've had to deal with here in the city, you know, I'm just more in line with protecting the city and actually, you know, phasing in a little different schedule than we currently know right now. But I just wanted to state that for the record, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Zambudo?
Thank you, Madam President. I've obviously spoken a lot about this development, and I've spoken a lot about the quality of the developer, but what I probably haven't spoken a lot about is the commitment up front, and I want to reiterate that commitment of $50 million plus on an innovation building that I think is unprecedented. I don't think we've ever seen anything like it. We will never see anything like it probably again. And I couldn't be more confident voting for this overlay district tonight for this developer. And the fact that I think there's plenty of protection with the PUD agreements and the special permit process that dictates everything that goes on in this project. So I can say I am completely comfortable supporting this tonight as the unanimous vote of the committee from the other night. So I'm thrilled to support this. I'm looking forward to a wonderful relationship with probably the premier developer, at least in New England, but I want to say further than that. So that's where I stand, and I'm completely comfortable going forward tonight and supporting this overlay district. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Are there any other counselors that wish to speak on this? Counselor Ganasso?
I think every time, Madam President, an opportunity is given to a community based on this level. I've had the pleasure of 30 years of service here, and I'm proud to say I have, and I represent people. I think this is a bright move for our community. I think it's a changing move. I think that it's giving our old, tired city a boost that it really needs. I think that certainly that it's incumbent upon us to soul search. Do we want all these units in our city? We don't want them anywhere. We don't want traffic. We want to minimize traffic no matter where we go. But again, to repeat what I've said like at least 400,000 times, it's regional traffic that goes through our community. Don't fault our neighbors, don't fault our residents. I have a motion later on tonight talking about neighborhoods. This is an opportunity, to use an old cliche, that's golden. Once in a lifetime opportunity to bring this type of caliber of project into a community. And as it was mentioned several times, this is going to encompass maybe 15 to 20 years. This is going to happen tomorrow. I'll be looking from my new home in Everett, to be, you know, I'll be long gone when this is fully done. I'll be in Woodlawn. But this here, this is going to be for our future. This is going to be something that we're all going to be proud of once it's accomplished. And given the principles that are in place here, and seeing the type of work that they do, as I go by twice a week with my son to go to Mass General, I see what's developing there, and I see the type of activity they do and the professional manner in which it's being conducted, with little or no disconvenience to people that are traversing that small strip that leads up to Mass General. I can't wait for the opportunity to see this come on board. I can't wait for the excitement of people in the area. I think it's going to bring something to our city that we've never had before. You know, it's going to bring up our community, and I just feel so strongly about it. And am I going to get my socks knocked off with the additional housing and stuff? Of course. But you know what? Sometimes you have to stand and make a stand and do something for your city that you know that is the best thing for it. And deep down in my heart, I know this is the best thing for our community. I know that we'll be enriched by this. Our citizens will love us for this in the future. And I think it's going to bring a new vision to our whole city. And I can't wait to see it happen. And so I'll be voting for the overlay district tonight. And I think that obviously, and if anybody has reservations, they have rights to have reservations. We all have a little, we all have our little hidden reservations. But secretly, we want this thing, and openly, we want this thing to work, and we want it to be so successful that we all look like we're really smart. And so I look forward to the day of looking smart and knowing that I did the right thing for our city. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Guanasso. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say something really corny. We all saw Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner, right? If you don't build it, they won't come, okay? If you build it, they will come. And I just feel like, as I said, thank you, as I said before last week when we were in the zoning committee, we're riding a wave, and if we don't get on it, we're going to lose out. So I'm for the overlay district, and I will give my vote tonight if we vote as a yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Seeing as there are no other councilors that wish to speak on this, I'm going to ask for a roll call. Madam Clerk? So we'll begin by ordering this to a second reading as amended. Ordered on a third and final reading as amended. Roll call.
Roll call for engrossment and ordainment on the Suffolk Downs Overlay District as amended. Councilor Guanasso.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo.
No.
No. Councilor Rotundo is absent. Councilor Zambudo.
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino.
Yes.
Yes, the Suffolk Downs Overlay District as amended has been engrossed and ordained.
Suspension of rules.
Suspension. All in favor? All opposed? Reconsideration with hopes that it does not prevail. All in favor? All opposed?
Legislative Affairs Subcommittee report.
Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you, Madam President. Obviously, the Legislative Affairs Committee met this evening. We had several items on the agenda. Most will be left in committee. We discussed the ordinance relative to abandoned bicycles. There's a couple of pieces of homework to be done on it to make it more in line with the way the committee is thinking and protecting our citizens a little more. So we're going to get back to that quickly because we do want that in place for the season. One item which we did vote out favorably was the 3% sales tax on marijuana sales. So I'd like to take that up for a vote, if you don't mind.
Madam Clerk?
So there's actually two parts to that motion, Councilor Zambudo. Did you want to take up both parts of the
Yes.
motion? The one,
Well, I think the acceptance of the law is the one that we wanted to take out, right? The other one we wanted to leave in, I think. Yeah, that's the way I reported it, I believe. So the automatic 3% sales tax on marijuana. I don't believe we did, but my recollection is that we took the first part out. Madam Clerk, do you have a recollection on what we did? What is it?
I believe that you actually reported the entire matter out.
Then there we go. My memory wasn't good.
So we'll do two separate roll calls, the first for the legal 3% and the second for the
I'm
additional.
not perfect.
For the host community agreement. Perfect. Madam Clerk's going to read both of these onto the record so councilors are clear on what they're voting on. Madam Clerk.
On the first roll call vote, shall the City Council accept the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 64N, Section 3, as amended by Chapter 55 of the Acts of 2017? The acceptance of this provision imposes a 3% local tax option on marijuana sales. Councilor Guanasso.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido. Yes. Councilor Novoselsky.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo is absent. Councilor Zambudo.
Yes?
Yes. And Council President Janino.
Yes.
Yes, the general law has been accepted. And I'll read the second portion of the motion. That the revenue generated from the local tax option shall be used to fund education on substance abuse and to help with addiction recovery. Further, that in accordance of condition number 10 of Special Permit C-15-12, the permit for the operation of a medical marijuana treatment center on Lot A at 44 Railroad Street, that when the applicant enters into a host community agreement with the City of Revere, the host community agreement shall include a community impact fee of 3% of gross sales per year for 5 years, which is allowed under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 94G, Section 3D, as amended by Chapter 55 of the Acts of 2017. Councilor Guanasso.
Yes.
Well, time out. I think we also amended the language would be that we dictate where the funds go in the educational and,
Correct.
So-
Point of information?
yeah, go ahead.
The chairman is correct. We did amend it to say that it would go into a specific line item, and that city council would have jurisdiction on how it was spent.
Thank you.
So we'll vote on the motion as amended.
So on the motion as amended. Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo is absent. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes, the motion has been approved.
Okay. Madam President, the other items, there was a lengthy discussion on the...
Madam President hopes that it should not be reconsidered.
Motion to suspend rules? All in favor? All opposed? On reconsideration with hopes that it does not prevail, all in favor? All opposed? Councilor Zambudo?
Okay, we had a lengthy discussion on the plastic bag proposed ordinance, and we left off that my colleagues, the proponents of this motion, are going to get back with a lot of information to help persuade some of us that are not exactly on board as to the merits from the other 62 cities as to whether or not the benefits were realized that were proposed when they took these into place, and has the cost of groceries gone up in their communities, and what are the benefits that they got from these bans of plastic bags. So hopefully, they're going to get back with a lot of information, and we'll have an informed vote in the near future on this. The other, unfortunately, the other two items we didn't have a chance to take up, and we will in the next subcommittee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Zambudo. We look forward to that next meeting.
The Appointment Subcommittee Report, calendar item number 10, communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of Paul Minsky as a constable for the city of Revere.
Councilor Guanasso.
Madam Chair, Madam President, earlier this afternoon, the Appointment Subcommittee met. Calendar item 18-093, reappointment of Paul Minsky as a constable, is voted out favorably by the subcommittee. I ask the committee of the whole if they would do so also. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Guanasso. On the motion, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 12, communication from the mayor requesting the city council to vote on the attached statement of interest form to authorize the superintendent to submit a grant application to the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Councilors. Any councilors wish to speak on this?
Madam President, if I may.
Sure.
We're all in favor of a new high school. We know we need it. Question I have is, where are we going to put it? You know, and I don't know if we should be, you know, putting the cart before the horse and asking for money when we don't even know where we're going to put something. So, I just think we need more information on this and hear from the superintendent and/or the mayor to further explain this.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Councilor. Councilor Keith, then Guanasso.
Thank you, Madam President. I know I don't want to create this lengthy debate. Obviously, Councilor Novoselsky mentions everyone here is in favor of and knows that there is a need. But as we know, the superintendent of schools needs to go before the school building authority every year to apply for this potential grant. Last year, they were denied. We all approved it, and the school building authority said no to Revere. So it's kind of one of those where you have to keep getting back in line and hope that you do get that opportunity to be funded, or partially funded, of course. And, you know, I guess it would be a good problem to deal with if we did get that authorization, to have to figure out where it's going to go. I have no idea where it's going to go. I just asked that question today. I think it's a great question. I don't think any of us really know. I'm sure we have all of us have really good ideas, but I think you have to keep getting back into line in hopes that the state grants us that money, and rather than waiting every other year. Maybe they'll see the persistence if we go back to them every year and want to get us off their back. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Guanasso.
Madam President, it's exactly what I was going to tell you. This is what we have to do to get back in the process again. This doesn't mean any authorization is given. It's just giving the superintendent the will to go forward with the backing of the city and just get in line again for that maybe possibility of getting funding. That's all it is.
Thank you, Councilor. After hearing this, it's my recommendation that we take this up this evening. However, I'd like to put in a verbal motion that we ask the mayor and the superintendent to come before the council to discuss what the plans are for the new high school so that we can get a little more information now that the cart is moving. On the motion? All in favor? All opposed? So ordered. And Madam Clerk is going to read the language required for this vote.
Having convened in an open meeting on March 19th, 2018, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the City Council of Revere, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated April 5th for the Revere High School located at 101 School Street, Revere, Mass., which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. Priority 2, elimination of existing severe overcrowding. Priority 4, prevention of severe overcrowding expected to result from increased enrollments. And Priority 7, replacement of an obsolete building in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements, and hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the city to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Counselor Granasso.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes? Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo is absent. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes, the motion has been approved. Calendar item number 17, communication from Rocco Falzoni, 55 Toscano Ave, relative to flooding and illegal dumping causing damage to his property.
Mr. Falzone?
Madam President, honorable members of the council, ladies and gentlemen. My story is plain and simple. First of all, before I go any further, I would like to acknowledge Ashley for what she did for me. I went in there short notice, and I said I would like to speak to the council. And she gave me, the deadline was at 12 o'clock. I think it was a Thursday or Friday. So I ran home, put something together. It was a rough draft. And she looked at it, and she said, it was the same thing that I was talking about before. And basically it was. 28 years of the same problem. There's increments that lead up to the major problem that I'm trying to explain. And I like what you said, Madam President. Pictures show it, tells 1,000 stories. But before I go any further, I also would like to make another statement there about what Charlie Patch did for me when he called Mr. Coletti from the state storm and water engineer. Still haven't heard from him. I called. Name recognition, again, means an awful lot. Like I said, Charlie called and bang, he got the answers right there. But we're still having problems. Situation down there, first of all, I'm fortunate to have 3 council members that live in Ward 6. So I'm kind of ahead of the game. For the council members that don't know the situation on Toscano and Ashley Ave, just let me say that it's hell. For 28 years living on that street and knowing if rains are coming, you can imagine what I'm going through. Again, there's no large body of water down there, but some of the pictures you've seen, because of no preventive maintenance between the state and other departments. It's a no-win situation. The state blames this one, it goes back and forth for 28 years. So I'm on my last hurrah before. I'm 73 years old and I can't do what I've been doing for the past 5 years. And these pictures I'm going to show illustrate what I've been going through. In one step further, I was at the water department and Councilor Ivey was in there and we talked and we made a few wishes about it's too late. And he's right. It is too late. I should have continued this years ago. I never should have stopped. After 1996, we had that major flood. Bobby Haas' administration was excellent. He was good. He put some guidelines down, and obviously years went by, and nobody followed the rules and the regulations, and here we are again, 28 years later, still trying to resolve the problem that has been existing for all that time. Danny and I go back a long time. Danny knows the problem down there, Charlie Patch. Charlie Patch thought the problem was fixed because we haven't flooded. But unbeknownst to everybody, the reason why we haven't had a major catastrophe down there, what I've been doing for the past 5 years, I've been maintaining the problem. That's why there's no major floods down here. And I can understand. No communication. Nobody knows what's going down there. I've talked to the DPW, I've talked to Frank Stringery, and still, there's no communication between all these departments. And lo and behold, I don't want to go on forever. I just want to thank you people for listening to me. And if anybody's questioning, why am I the only person up here complaining? Well, just let me run this by you. I'm going to say that Half the people that lived on Toscano Ave going way back, half of them moved, they couldn't tolerate no more, and I don't blame them. I should have moved along with them, but needless to say, I'm still here. And after this water recedes from the floods, I cannot tell you what remains on the streets. You talk, and I've looked at hypodermic needles. Anything that comes out of toilet bowls is laying on that street. And it's funny, because when I was looking at the last pictures I showed you about the St. Mary's Ballpark, when that water recedes, I cannot believe what's the residue that's on that grass, what's the whole area must be contaminated. If I had any kids, they wouldn't be playing ball on that field. I can tell you that until it gets checked after every rainstorm. And there's no reason for that. The only reason why that happens is because there's no preventive maintenance from the state. There's pictures I'm going to show you guys later on, and not too long from here. I'm trying to wrap up 28 years in 3 bundles of paper, and I just found out that my wife had asked me, does the councilman have any kind of office or stuff like that? I said, I don't think so. But I was informed, you guys have a mailbox? So I was elated, because I was going to mail it out certified mail, so it's a lot cheaper to do it this way. So when I get it together, I'm going to drop it in the mailbox. There's going to be 3, as of now, there's 3 documents that are going to say between Army Corps of Engineers, the state, Revere, and EPA. What I'm going to show you now with pictures, you're going to say to yourself, how could this be going on for 28 years? If I may. Thank you.
And just so you know as well, sir, this is still in the
gonna start
Public
from-
Works Subcommittee.
Left to right.
Sir?
I'm
This is
sorry.
still in the Public Works Subcommittee, so this will still be heard with Counselor Novoselsky, and you'll
Oh,
have
that'd be great.
a hearing there as well, and he'll notify you when that date is, the 9th. So it'll be April 9th. There'll be a meeting at 5 o'clock? 5 o'clock?
5 o'clock?
And that's when you can really do a big, full presentation. We'd love to see the pictures tonight.
Thank
And then
you.
after that, again, it's already in committee, so I don't have to refer this to committee because you're already there. But
Thank you.
that'll give you ample time with the counselor and really time to dig into the issue.
Okay. Now, in this subcommittee, I don't want to take, I feel like I'm taking away new business from all you people, trying to get things resolved, trying to move up, trying to step up. But because of my situation, I feel like I don't belong here trying to resolve something that happens going on for 28 years. But I have no choice.
No, sir, I agree 100%, and I think that's
Like
why
I
the
said.
subcommittee is going to be the best place for you to work on this. That way we have all the resources and can dive into it, because it's really hard to sum up a problem for over 30 years in a
No, I
20-minute meeting.
I
So
understand that.
I think that'll
do,
be great.
do.
But we'd love to see the pictures tonight. We'll put them on file, and then also, please, those documents you were going to prepare and everything, if you could have it ready for the meeting on the 9th with Counselor Novoselsky, that'd be very helpful.
I will. One more statement, if I may. In the past, coming up here in the past, I've heard everybody trying to get Comcast, trying to get all these major companies. It's difficult. What I would like to have, if it may, have Department of DOT, Army Corps of Engineers, EPA, is there a chance to get them up here? And I'm curious, why can't they maintain this problem where it's major companies? These people aren't doing the work. They hire people to do the work. They have a facility right on Washington Ave. I left a message for Mr. Coletti, which is he is the water man for the state engineer. Got no answers. He couldn't answer the question. It's right down the street. All you have to do when it rains heavy, just have somebody down there like I do with a rake and make sure it's free. 2 weeks ago, the last storm that we had, I was down there with my wife. She's in the car, and I'm waiting for her to back up. And there I was in the creek with a rake. DPW comes by, and they told me to get out of there. If I don't get out of there, they're going to arrest me. So now I had a choice. I said, I can't go anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I'm protecting my property, which should have been done way back then. And they understood that. And the reason why there's a high profile down there now, because they've been watching me going back and forth in the creek with my wheelbarrow, taking care of the issue. And I have nothing against the DPW. They are flat out. I understand that. Some of the stories I heard with this new building, they deserve more than that. For the short amount of help that they have, they're running a city, it's incredible. So with that, there's pictures before 1996, what my house looks like, and there's pictures after 1996, when everything started falling apart with the floods. So if I may.
Perfect, you can send them to the city clerk, she'll place them on file, we'll all get to look at them. And can we scan those and then email them to all the counselors? So what she's gonna do is she's gonna scan the packet and email it to all of us, so we all have our own copy of the photos.
Okay.
So we'll all have a copy, we'll all be prepared for the meeting on the 9th. And then if you could have, a list of any questions you have prepared and all of the documentation that you need to present to us to get your story across, we'll be working on it that day.
Good. Can I get those pictures back later?
Can we scan them and then,
Later, and then you can pick them up in my office, or I can, when I see you at the Public Works Subcommittee in the night,
Oh, great.
you can pick them up.
Sure, great, great. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it.
thank you again. Counselor Patch?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to, I agree, Rocco's done, over the years, a lot of work down there, but the DBW really has been on top of this the last several years. We also got a pumping station on Sicilian Ave that helps out. And the last, the real big storm we had when everybody lost the power in my ward, there was no flooding on Toscano Avenue in Asti Ave, which it was a lot of hard work from the DPW superintendent, Donnie Goodwin, and the water department, from there constantly going down there and keeping an eye on it and making sure it was clean. And I'm sure, Rocco, that the reason they said that to you about arresting you is that liability. I mean, you got away with it all these years, but it's a different world.
No question about it,
Yeah,
Charlie.
so
I do understand
they were, during that storm, they were going by there every 45 minutes. And they used to have a guy, if you remember, the past administration, they used to have overtime, and they used to have a guy sit there all, when it rained. But this administration, for whatever reason, stopped that overtime. So I know they're going to continue. I think you're showing pictures here that are a little bit old. But the last few years, I'm being honest here. I mean, the last few years,
I understand.
the
Sure.
flooding has really improved, and it's.
Oh, no, it has. You're absolutely right. It
Right.
has.
So I just want the people out there to know
Oh,
that the
no, no, it
DPW has
has.
been doing a
Listen,
fabulous job.
You said a mouthful right there. It has improved. But my issue is the fact where they came by every 45 minutes. I know, been there for 50 years, I know the system. I know when it's going to be flooded. As a matter of fact, next month is when every house that abuts Caruso Court, that's when they start cutting their grass. That's when they start cutting their tree limbs. Wood floats. When the wood floats on heavy rains, everything washes down to those trash gates on Asti Ave and it blocks up. That's the routine. When he told me they come by every 45 minutes, I had said to them point blank, you cannot come by every 45 minutes. It would take one branch on the head wall in front of those gates. You cut one branch, and it comes down, there's another branch, there's another one. You come by in 45 minutes, the whole area will be flooded up. You can't do that. You have to maintain, someone has to be down there with the rake watching it. And I do understand, the Board of Health, they are short-handed, I understand that. And that is not their fault. It's not Revere's fault, it's the state's fault. It's Mr. Coletti's fault. But he won't listen to me. He will listen to you people, not me. I'm Joe Blow, six-pack, who am I? I live in an area where I'm trying to protect my property. There's a no-fix situation here. It cannot be fixed unless the state fixes the problem. I don't expect anybody from the DPW to come in there and start cleaning out the state's problem. I understand that. What happens in the weekend? Who's going to watch that in the weekend? Is the DPW going to put somebody overtime to stay in there with a rake when it rains heavy? Can I go out somewhere
Sir?
and enjoy myself? No, I'm supposed to be retired.
Excuse me, sir?
Oh,
With
I'm
all due
sorry.
respect, we're going to move on to this next item on the agenda, but this will be going to committee. We'll have
Thank
plenty
you.
of time to go over
Thank
this. We'll have all the people that we need present to get some answers for you, but unfortunately, I don't think there's anything further that we can accomplish in this meeting to get this addressed, but I know during subcommittee, we'll have an opportunity to dive deeper into it and get some results. So
Thank
we'll
you.
place
Thank-
this on file because it's already in committee.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
now, what time was that, 5 o'clock?
5 o'clock on the 9th.
Thank you.
Calendar item number 18, communication from Healthy Community Initiatives relative to the establishment of a revolving account for bicycle income and expenses.
Hi, Julie DeMauro, Healthy Community Initiatives Office. This is just a request to establish a revolving account in the amount of $12,000 to deposit all of the funds that we will be collecting from the bike share operators when they begin operating here in the city of Revere. I did attach with the letter a projected income sheet of the bicycle assessment income, as well as what the city currently spends on bike infrastructure expenses. That includes bike lane, sharrow, striping, signage, bike racks, and bike helmets. So this income sheet that I have here is just projected. I would like to get the fee a little bit higher than what is proposed here, but I am looking to have a revolving account to help us pay for any additional infrastructure costs that may occur throughout the year that is not budgeted into my budget or DPW's budget.
Julie, thank you for waiting. I wish I knew you were here to speak on this because I thought you were here for the committee report, or else I would have called it out of order when I called all the other department heads out of order. So next time, if you're ever here for anything like that, we'll call it out of order with all the other department heads. So
Okay.
I feel bad. I thought you were here for the
Oh,
committee
no
report for
problem.
the other item. So
No,
thank
no
you
problem.
for waiting. Any counselors? Counselor Zambudo?
I think this is, probably separate from the fact that we're passing the ordinance, and we got to work on a couple of little things, but I'm certainly in favor of supporting this revolving account.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Novoselsky?
Thank you, Madam President. Julie, you want $12,000, and you only have $3,750 coming in
So that
in
that
one
is-
year,
Right.
in 1 year. And then you have potentially $4,400 coming in the second year. And that's far short of $12,000. And the monies that are being expended will probably be coming out of the DPW budget. And the only thing that may not be is the $1,200 for the helmets.
If I may, does that account for a collection of fees? If
It
there are
is for
fees
collection of
associated?
fees, yeah.
The
It is for
fees-
collection of
Yeah,
fees.
the
So it would be, so the reason why, I would like to get the bike share operators to commit to more than the $2 per bike. I'm also projecting that if we do have the event that they are putting close to 500 bikes on the street per month, that would be $8,000 for the total time. So we could get up to $12,000 in the first year. I did project a little bit higher because I'm still not quite sure as to how much of a fee I can really get out of them. I'm going to start high and then hopefully be a little bit closer to the $2 to $5 per bike. But also too, I want to make sure that if they do put 500 bikes on the street and it's going nicely and we're able to, and the ridership supports that, if we take in 8 or even a little bit more, we have enough wiggle room just in case.
If I may. So the actual expenses have nothing to do with what your intake is?
Well, I would like to cover my expenses if we can, because one of the things that so right now, the helmets that we provide are actually paid for out of a grant. The $5,000 for the striping, for this year, that included just the lanes that were already put down. That did not include the additional Malden Street bike lane and Sharrow that went down. So that was an additional $2,500 that came out of the DPW's budget that was not appropriated for. It came out of their striping budget. With that, with the request of the bike share, we are getting a lot more requests for bike racks, especially at the schools. They run anywhere from $100 to $500, depending on what type of bike rack you choose. So that could run, if you get a bike rack that accommodates anywhere from 9 or more bikes, you're looking at $500 per rack. So just kind of budgeted our items a little bit higher than normal, just to kind of give you the worst-case scenario of what's being spent. But more than likely, the striping for the bike sharrows and lanes are probably going to be a little bit higher next year, because we have the additional Malden Street lane and bike boxes. The bike helmets will probably be a little bit higher again, because our program is catching on, and where we will have a bike share program operating in the city, we'll be giving away a lot more helmets. So this is just an estimated of what we spend, but it could be a little bit higher.
Yeah, it just seems a little high for me for a revolving account, so.
Right, but I want to make sure that if we take in more than 8 or 37, it will stay in that account, it won't get taken out.
Well, if you're spending money, it won't reach that high.
Well, it
You should
could.
be spending it during the year to
That's correct.
offset it, so,
That's correct.
just seems high to me.
And the money is only going to be used for the specific items that I have written in your letter that came with this packet. So it's not going to go to another department. It's just going to be earmarked for those things that were specified in the letter.
But again, they should be going through Public Works, not through your department.
The
'Cause they
fund
already have a
itself?
They already have a contract to do that work.
Correct. They do have they have a contract with the striping, but they don't have a contract with the bike rack company. The signage is something that gets paid for
Yeah,
when they order
yeah,
signs.
Bike racks are a capital expense, you just go out and buy a couple, whatever bike racks you need, but, for signage, same thing, we have a sign department. They could do that work for a lot cheaper. So, I don't know. Just concerned by the amount.
Any other questions, Council? Councilor Zambudo?
I move that we approve the $12,000 revolving account.
On the motion?
Shall the city council approve the establishment of a revolving account not to exceed $12,000 for the purpose of handling income and expenses from the bicycle sharing program? Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes,
Yes. Councilor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo? Yes. Councilor Rotundo is absent. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes, the account has been established.
Thank you.
Motions?
So at this time, before we go into motions, we're going to take up Rule 28. So I'm going to ask all counselors to take a moment and see which motions they would like to speak on. I'll then start down the line. You can let me know which motions you'd like to speak on, and then we will go from there. So counselors, I'll give you all a minute, and then just let me know.
20?
That was quick, counselor. So we have Council 20. Counselor Keefe?
25, 26.
Counselor McKenna?
21?
Counselor Morbido? Counselor Novoselsky? 24 is
it's
not.
just what, 24.
24.
Pass.
Counselor Powers? Counselor Rizzo? Counselor Zambudo? Well, at this time, we're taking up all of them except for 23, so I don't know how. All right, so we are skipping 19, 23, and 26? Okay.
Calendar item number 20, motion presented by Councilor Guanasso, that the mayor request the city solicitor and the building inspector to draft an ordinance regulating short-term rentals such as Airbnb, HomeAway, VRBO, similar to that of Boston.
Counselor Guanasso?
Thank you, Madam President. Based on the fact that most of our property owners, and I would probably suggest all, select the area where they want to choose for their residence. Now with this new Airbnb, we have hotels opening up in the neighborhoods. We're losing, hour by hour, we're losing the identity of the neighborhoods. You come to my small little area that I live in, you see overnight cars parked from Providence, Rhode Island. You see them parked from Connecticut. And so that leads to a deterioration of the fabric of neighborhood. Bearing in mind that several other cities and towns are doing the same thing. They're coming, and they're now seeing a proliferation of businesses in the residential areas. Our neighbors in Lynn are coming up with something similar to ours. And one of the councilors down there said it so neatly. He says, you have these quiet Lynn streets where people purchase homes, and suddenly you've got a Comfort Inn next door. And that's what's occurring throughout our whole neighborhoods. And really, we're doing a disservice to our residents. That's why I was praying and hoping that the city would go into a ban where we have permit parking for all our community. But not having that and going forward, I contacted the city clerk. And lo and behold, the city of Boston is undertaking the same idea. Now, they've gone in great lengths to prepare quite a lengthy program and create a new ordinance, some of which would be beneficial to us, some which would not be. What I would like this to do is to go into committee. Once it's in committee, I will provide, through the efforts of the city clerk, a copy of this proposal submitted by Mayor Walsh of Boston. And I'd like from us to take part in this and tear apart what we want and add to it what we also want. So I ask for the indulgence of the council to take upon this project to alleviate some of the concerns of some of our neighbors that are having. And I just think it's an unjust thing that's occurring here, and the silence is really maddening because we're allowing, again, another intrusion upon our community without raising the flag and saying, hey, enough is enough. Stop with this. You know, well, I bought my home because I wanted to live here, and I wanted to have neighbors that I recognized and shared a common friendship with. I can't share that with someone's here for 2 days, 3 days, or a week, and then they leave. That's not the fabric of community. That's not what it's all about. So I think having this ordinance in place and bearing in mind, this ordinance that was prepared by the city of Boston will take the test of a legal challenge. I read through it quite in depth, and I look forward to the council also looking at it and putting their input in it. But I think it's at least a step in the right direction, and I know Lynn will probably be calling us up and getting in touch with us because it's happening throughout all the cities and towns of the Commonwealth. And for all too long, we've lied silent on this, and we've not said anything about it. Now I think it's time to speak out. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McKenna.
Through you, Madam President, to Councilor Guanasso, I would like to ask you, is on that Boston ordinance, is there like a hotel fee of a tax?
And that's why I'd like to review this. That's why I'd like to review this in subcommittee because it's quite detailed and it's several pages.
Okay.
So it identifies what each possible problem. And then we can enact the ones we want, and we can also critique the other thing. We can critique it and go from there. But I think it's a place to start.
So I would like to suggest if we could talk about it, putting like a 6% tax exempt on B&Bs, where we have 7% on hotels. It's sort of the same thing.
Yeah, well, there is a fee accompanied with this. I don't, rather than going through the details of this, that's why I say this kind of conversation should take place in a subcommittee so we can answer all these questions. And then when we put all our thoughts together, we come out with a final package through the chair of that subcommittee, and we can tell our community, this is what we have in mind, and this is what we'd like to go forward with. And every citizen within the community is welcome to weigh in on this and help us out with this and go forward. But I think it concerns all of us.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I want to, through you, I want to thank Council Canasso for putting this through. I've been thinking about it. I didn't really know which way to go with it, but he made the move, and I'm glad he's doing it. I said it was strange for me to be on the corner at Orr Square coming out of the Revere Beach Tea Station when someone with bags came up to me and he says, "Where's the Airbnb on Garfield Ave?" That bothered me. It really bothered me. And I'm glad that we're pushing this forward, and not only will it protect the people, not only the residents, but also the city, and we'll get our due for a lot of protection and safety. So thank you very much, Counselor.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Rizzo.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And Council Ganasso, I think it's an excellent motion, but it only addresses part of what is going on. And, the Airbnbs, and you talked about the quality of life of the neighbors and, those that are using their properties essentially as a business, which is what Airbnbs are. Of course, there should be some regulation with that. But then you take into consideration the rooming houses, the homes you drive by that have 3, 4, 5 mailboxes. Those are the quality of life issues that we need to address. And it's one of the reasons why, and not to rehash it, Madam President, that I voted against this overlay district that would allow for 3,000 apartment units in Revere, not to mention the other 6,000 in Boston. I mean, these are things that we need to talk about and think long-term. And, while I know we're just on this motion, and I support the motion, I think we have to take it a step further. Because if we're going to start talking about quality of life for Revere residents, we need to take it as a package. We need to look at it all. We can't pigeonhole one group of people, the Airbnb people, but yet let the rooming houses continue to operate, to keep approving apartment complex after apartment complex. We need to look at it as an overall picture and see what do we want for our community. And so I'm excited to work on this Airbnb ordinance with you and the committee, but I hope that this is a step that we can take to address all of the systemic problems that this city is going to face, if not today, certainly down the road. We talked about going out for a new high school because of the overcrowding. I mean, we keep bringing more and more people in. The Airbnb people obviously aren't the problem there. The hotel people aren't the problem there. But just everything that goes along with it, every little bit impacts this city. And I don't know how many Airbnb units there are in Revere. I don't know if you have that information or if there's any way to find out. But okay, so we can find that out. But every little bit, it's like this city is subjected to death by 1,000 paper cuts if we don't start paying attention to everything that is going on in this city that's impacting whether it's water, sewer, whether it's our public safety infrastructure, whether it's our school system, whether it's our roads and sidewalks. We need to look at all of this as a whole so that we have a good grasp on what's going on long-term for the city. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Powers?
Thank you, Madam President. I think it's an excellent motion. I think it's long overdue. I know of several in the area, in the Ward 5 area. They, for all practical purposes, are operating legally, but the thing we're losing track of here is when you get off of a plane and you go to a Comfort Inn or a Hampton Inn or any one of the hotels in the city, you're paying the room excise tax, which is documented by the hotel, goes to the Commonwealth, and comes back to us in a form of local aid. When people rent out a room to someone, they're negating that room excise tax. They're not paying it. So as a result, we're losing monies here and there and there and there, which amount to probably a considerable amount of money at the end of a calendar year. So I think it's an excellent motion, and I think there's a lot of issues that have to be discussed with it. And I think one primarily is also public safety. How safe are these places? Somebody rents a room to someone, do they have smoke detectors? Are they up to par? Do they have gas detectors? Do they have all of the necessary preventions that would help a person if there was a serious event, a fire or something like that going on in that building? So I think it's an excellent motion, Counselor, and I want to commend you for it, and I intend to be at that hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, councilors. I agree with my colleagues. I think this is a great motion. So I move that we put this into legislative affairs. And I also ask that we submit a copy of the Boston ordinance with the agenda for that meeting. That way we can all review it. Perfect. This will go to legislative affairs.
Calendar item number 21, motion presented by Councilor McKenna, that the mayor request the city engineer, DPW, and CDM Smith to prioritize the repair of the water and sewer system in the Belle Isle Avenue area. The winter storms from January and February caused major flooding of up to 5 feet of water in the residences of Belle Isle Ave and Montfort Ave.
Thank you, Madam President. During the last storm, CDM Smith came down to assess 4.5 feet of water. They were down there with their hip boots in the water, looking at the problems. They opened up a cap, which was a solid cap that no one knew about because the brush of the creek had, the brush just went over this cap. When they opened the cap, it was a sewer line, and it went right into the sewer. There is a water pipe there that's covered with brush. It's this part of Beachmont has been neglected for years. I guess I was told they were supposed to come in 4 or 5 years ago to solve the problem. I'm asking now, priority, for them to come in. DPW is great, but they could only do so much. And just fix this sewer and water problem that they're having. Because, like I said before many times, this is going to be the norm. And it's going into people's houses and basements, and it's affecting the residents. So that's what I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors? On the motion? All in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 22, motion presented by Councilor Powers, that the mayor instruct the city engineer, DPW, and the PCD to prepare a plan to prevent the overflow of stormwater from the Pines River onto Mills Ave. Further, that the city planners seek out funding for this project. Additionally, that several sections of crumbling seawall on Rice Ave be repaired immediately. Funding for this project should come from free cash.
Counselor Powers.
Thank you, Madam President. During the past year and a half or 2 years, we've seen a tremendous amount of change in the area down on Mills Avenue. I remember years ago at one time, down around River, John Avenue, they got some topping over, there was some seaweed that came over. And it really, other than the boat yard there, they were probably affected more than anyone down there. But that's all changed. That's all changed. We've had 3 major storms this year. We've had a couple last year. And that water just keeps, the level of the tide in that river just keeps getting higher and higher and higher. And at one time, again, it was down on that end, up in the further end of Mills Avenue. Now it's on the lower end of Mills Avenue. It's all throughout Mills Avenue. And I was down there the last few storms, and I can tell you now, I wouldn't want to be experiencing that problem, and I don't think anyone should be. And I think it's incumbent upon the city engineer, the DPW, Planning and Community Development, to come up with a solution. The solution is probably some type of a small wall down there. I don't know, I'm not an engineer, but I know something can be done and something should be done to correct that situation so that people down there are not impacted constantly every time there's a threat of rain or a storm or high tide or something like that. And the other part of this motion, too, addresses Rice Avenue. They have a seawall over there. And 2 years ago, it was pointed out to me that there was an area that was crumbling down there, and through community development, we were able to get that section of the wall replaced. And now there are other sections down there. There's a section down at the bend where you come around to get along Rice Avenue, up in front of Mark Locke's house. That's in the 390s. There's a section up there, or maybe two sections that has to be replaced. And I say that, you know, this can be done inexpensively compared to what needs to be done on Mills Avenue, but let's do it. Let's get it done before people experience more problems in their homes, more flooding, and it gets worse. Or that maybe perhaps the storm surge is large enough that where that wall is crumbling in areas, it just wipes the wall away, and before you know it, we had a situation on Harrington Avenue this last storm. Water came right down Harrington Avenue. That should not be acceptable. With the engineering we have today and the products, that shouldn't be acceptable. People shouldn't have to go to bed worrying whether or not they're going to have water in their basement or even in their homes at some point. So I would ask that the mayor and direct these departments to move on this as quickly as possible to come to a solution that works for everybody down in that area. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors?
Eric Lampedecchio, 43 Tapley Avenue. Thank you, Councilor Powers, for getting this started. As you know, and as I'm sure you're well aware, this area has been severely impacted by flooding. I have a few points of information regarding your motion. The first is about the beach wall in the Point of Pines. I've submitted several tickets to Revere 311, and they've informed me that that beach wall is owned by the Point of Pines Beach Association. The Beach Association believes it's owned by the city. So it's been a bit of a back and forth, and if the city can just step up and take ownership of it, that would be fantastic for the folks down there. Secondly, the last time this area was studied in regards to flooding was back in 1993. So Elaine Hurley was part of a study done by the Army Corps of Engineers, and I have that study. If any of you would like to see it, I'd be happy to share it with you. But back in 1993, they looked at data from 1988, and they found several things. The first, the highest that the tide had flowed in that area was 10.8 feet. That was back in 1978. Excuse me. We've blown that record out of the water, literally. Secondly, they've done studies in regards to the contaminants in the water, and in the 80s, they found multiple metals leaking out from the Resco facility. As a result of those metals, we're unable to dredge the river, meaning we can't dig deeper to allow more water. So the engineers came up with 3 solutions. Each comes with a price tag. The first, to build dikes more inland up by Ward 6. This would allow the water to flow deeper into the marsh, and as a result would lower the water in the river. The second, build walls. This was the most expensive, coming at $15 million. Now again, this is 1993 pricing, so add the cost of living or whatever the new pricing is for that, I'm sure it's much higher. The third was the cheapest of the solutions, coming in at $310,000, was to take the I-95 fill excavation, dig that area out, and seed it so that the water could flow in there as overflow. Now, again, just Councilor Powers, as you said, you're not an engineer, neither am I. Engineers have looked at this problem, and if we can at least get a starting point here, maybe bring in the Army Corps of Engineers. I know, Councilor McKenna, you mentioned that you're working with the state delegation. Is there any update on that? Okay. So okay. All right. Well, I'd be happy to share this with you guys, and if there's anywhere I can send it.
If you want to submit it to the clerk, she can forward it to us.
Okay.
We can email it to her or
I have it
hard
digitally.
copy.
Yep. And again, thank you to Elaine Hurley for hanging on to this document from 1993. It's great to have residents in the area that still know the whole story. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the Army Corps of Engineers has a lot of work to do in the city of Revere, so they don't know what's cut out for them, but they're going to be here for a while. Next item? Oh, on this motion, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 24, motion presented by Councilor Novoselsky, that the mayor appropriate $60,000 out of the Community Improvement Trust Fund for the relamping of the decorative streetlights on Shirley Ave.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, through you to all my colleagues, we had a little miscommunication last fall when we were appropriating some funding for electric for DPW, and it was thought that part of that money was going to be used for the decorative lights on Shirley Ave. So I was speaking to the mayor, and he recommended that we see if we can get the $60,000 out of the Community Improvement Trust Fund, which is all from the mitigation money that's coming in from all the construction around the city. So, and the lamps are ready to be put in. We just need some money to pay the contractor. So appreciate everybody's cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors? On the motion, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 25, motion presented by Councilor Keefe that the mayor utilize public safety funds to install surveillance cameras at Harry Delarusso Stadium.
Counselor Keefe.
Thank you, Madam President. I've brought this motion forth before, and I know that there hasn't been a lot of activity in regards to putting up cameras, so I'm going to bring it forth again. I think it's late. Tomorrow's going to be the first day of spring, so before you know it, summer activity will be coming, and that's usually when there's a lot of things going on at the stadium, and certainly a lot of late-night activity. I know cameras aren't going to stop a crime or stop something bad from happening, but they do act as a deterrent, and it's a $7 million facility. We invested a lot of money as a community on that. Wouldn't you want to have something to protect that investment? I mean, people put cameras on their homes. This is a $7 million facility. We should have something so that if there's vandalism or if there's an incident, we have something to go back on and hold people accountable to it and potentially solve a crime. But also, yes, children come by and they see it, and maybe they'll be less apt to vandalize the area or do the wrong thing. So I think it protects us as a community, and it certainly protects our asset.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Rizzo?
Thank you very much, Madam President. I was under the impression that those cameras had been installed. They were supposed to be installed as part of the project, and I was assured back in November of 2015 that those cameras were to be mounted and observed, presumably by our own police department. Yeah, I mean, we absolutely should have cameras down there. The worst thing, what happens with a lot of capital improvements, whether it's equipment or in this case a stadium, if it's not maintained and properly maintained, you lose that asset and you wind up now chasing it with money that we shouldn't have to spend. So I totally agree with the motion and hope that these cameras can be expedited.
And just
Thank
for
you.
your information, there are cameras along the school and the school property that get a small view going towards the concession stands of the stadium. To my knowledge, that's as far as everything goes, or with good cameras. You should probably have something mounted on all the corners of the stadium, certainly on Fernwood, corners of Fernwood and Alston, and/or the main center. But yes, they were not fully installed, and I know that was in the initial plan to have cameras, and that was my argument twice in the last 3 years that I've brought this up. So thank you. Thanks for your support. Appreciate it.
Counselor Novoselsky?
Thank you, Madam President. Through you to Councilor Rizzo and Councilor Keefe, totally agree with you. As you know, I was involved in this, the construction of the stadium, having been working there for over 50 years with the high school football team. But knowing that what we went through and to get that, and I thank you, Councilor Rizzo, for your efforts of getting the monies to put that together. But the cameras were supposed to be installed. And to my knowledge, there's still money in that program, in that project. So it should be easy enough to do, and somebody just needs to, we're going to give them a dope slap in the back of the head and get it done. So thank you for bringing it forward, Councilor Keefe.
Thank you, Counselor. If I may, can we amend this to look at the existing funds, see if there are existing funds allocated? If said funds are not allocated, then explore this fund? Yes. Sound good? On the motion as amended, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered. At this time, I'll just also note that calendar item 19 was withdrawn, and no one wished to speak on 26 and 23. Anyone else like to speak on anything on the agenda? On the motions? All in favor, all opposed? The next meeting of the Revere City Council will be on March 26th, and follow that April 2nd. So we'll see you all on the 26th. Thank you.